All right, so welcome. We are here to talk about some of the craziness that's going on in our culture right now, and especially for our patients and anyone else who wants to listen, because there's got to be some sense out there, especially with this episode here that we want to talk about, like all the fear mongering that's going on out there. So this is like our anti-fear mongering campaign. Everybody's just wrapped up in all this fear and hysteria that's been created, but that's not the normal, natural state of the human mind. It's not the normal, natural state of the human spirit, nor the human body. So from like a mind, body, spirit perspective, I think it'd be cool if we just talk about like what it really needs to look like at this point, right?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I think it's really important too that we point out the fact that, listen, you may not agree with everything we're about to say. This isn't about being agreeable, quite frankly. This is about truth. And at the end of the day, we're not saying in what we're about to talk about that you shouldn't take it seriously. We're not saying that this is not a problem, right? We are saying this is a problem, take it seriously. But what we're trying to say is that there's got to be a balance. There's two sides to every story. And so if you live in fear, there's a consequence to that. Like, people have to have hope. They have to have tangible hope. It can't be a situation where they're thinking, oh my goodness, I'm totally helpless. There's nothing I can do. Let me cower in fear, stay in my house, and hope that someone's going to rescue me. Like, that never works. And it has spiritual implications, it has emotional implications, it has physical implications. I think that's what you're getting at, right?
Right, for sure. And you know what, as we go through this, we could touch on the consequences on the body's expression of health and well-being from a mind, body, spirit perspective. But I mean, it really starts with a mindset for sure. And so like my table talk the other day was like victim or victor.
Right, I saw that.
And so, I mean, we've got to be thinking positively. And just from a spiritual perspective, so I know in 2 Timothy 1:7, this is one of my favorite scriptures, we actually had a challenge based on this, 2 T 1:7.
I actually wrote it on the whiteboard in that room 5 too.
So it's perfect.
After you said it.
Yeah, 2 Timothy 1:7, for God didn't give us a spirit of fear or timidity, rather a spirit of power, love, and self-discipline. And I want to start with that. Let's break it down, because there's a spiritual side to this. We're physical beings with an eternal soul, right?
Right.
You say it all the time, right? That we're spiritual beings with living a human experience right here. So you can't deny the spiritual side of things that are going on. So I want to go out there and just talk about like the normal state of the spirit. We were not given a spirit of fear. We were given a spirit of power. So again, victor or victim. Are we powerful or are we powerless? And so especially in a situation like this that we're facing, we are more than powerful. Mm-hmm. In fact, I say this all the time. If we're doing all the right things, right, then you have a titanium immune system, because germs are, and you'll hear like some of these principles pervade through a lot of the videos we do, but when you're talking about the germ theory and the scare and the phenomenon that's going on right now, you've got to fundamentally know that, yes, germs play a role in this, but a bigger role is the fact that you become a susceptible host, right? And so there's lots of things that you could do to build a titanium immune system. And so when there's germs that are part of the natural order, they've got a purpose on the planet, but God gave us an immune system that is specifically designed, if it's working the way it's intended to identify and destroy dangerous pathogens so they don't even stand a chance.
Right.
So we are not powerless, we are powerful, but I love in that scripture, so God didn't give us a spirit of fear. He gave us a spirit of power, love, and self-discipline. That's, to me, one of the most important things of that, is that we are called to be obedient and disciplined. What are we called to be obedient and disciplined to when it comes to building a titanium immune system? That's the laws and principles that govern health. And if we're disciplined to them, then our immune system becomes a titanium immune system, and the germs, including the coronavirus, don't stand a chance. That's why we're seeing lots of people, like a lot of the cases of the coronavirus, if you look at the most current statistics, I think the most recent report that I saw is like 95% of the cases, they're just expressing mild symptoms. Right? They're expressing mild symptoms.
Yeah.
So that's because an immune system is at work to some extent or another. And so if your immune system is titanium, the germ doesn't stand a chance. If they're a little weakened or compromised, you might experience mild symptoms. And if your immune system is severely compromised, those are the people that should be, taking the most extreme precautions like they're talking about out there.
And that's a good point, because that's exactly what you were talking about before, that about this titanium immune system. We know it's true. We know that to be true because look, who are the people who are most vulnerable, right? It's the people with the weakened immune system, underlying health challenges. That should be a clue. Some people think that this is not the time to talk about health. Like some people think that we should just focus on the crisis. This is a perfect time to talk about health. I mean, it's kind of like if houses were burning down in your community, that would be a perfect time to talk about fire prevention and fire safety. Like, when do you wait until houses aren't burning down? Like, this is a perfect time. But the problem is, the reason I believe, well, no, not believe, I know, the reason why people have a challenge with this is because fundamentally we've forgotten that sickness is the absence of health. Right? We see sickness as this thing that comes on us. We're victims. The viruses, the bacteria. I mean, we talk about catching this. Cancer came to get us, heart disease. And it makes you a victim. Right? So we sympathize with people who are struggling, and certainly family members who've lost other family members to the COVID-19 or any other disease. But the reality is, it doesn't negate the fact that sickness is the absence of health. So if you want to fight a disease, you want to build health. It's like you always say, right? Darkness is the absence of light. No one walks into a dark room and curse the darkness. You turn the light on. And I want to talk to you for a minute to people who are Christ followers, who are Christians. Here's why. You don't wait. We were talking about this earlier downstairs. Right. When's the best time for someone who is in dire straits, who is a drug addict, let's say, or who's just really down and hopeless? When's the best time to tell them about the love of Jesus Christ? Right? Is there a better time than when they're down? They should hear it all the time, but that's when they need it. In other words, when's the best time to give people hope? Right? So you've got to balance the side of the equation, and that's not happening right now. People are literally cowering in fear, and perhaps later on, maybe in a different segment, like you mentioned, we can talk about the consequences of that,
right.
The physiological consequences and how it affects your health. But I want to get that point across.
Yeah, and let me just touch on the whole mind, body, spirit kind of thing as well, because we live in a state of fear, and that occupies all of our thoughts, and we have these limited beliefs, and you're going to literally talk yourself into a bad outcome, because how you think plays such a huge role in how your body's functioning and healing. There's no doubt about that. And especially like stress levels and when we're experiencing emotions such as fear, you literally begin to undermine the way the body's functioning and healing. Stress is real. It's got a real physiological effect on the human body. It affects everything from respiration to digestion, elimination, and most importantly, it affects your immune response. And so we can't let this fear and those emotions, those negative emotions, and these huge levels of stress really determine our level of health.
It's going to weaken us as a culture. Yeah.
And so we may not be in control of everything that's going on around us, right? But we are powerful in the fact that something's only stressful if you perceive it as such, if you let that emotion take control of you.
Right.
So if you let it become stressful, if you're going to let stress undermine your immune response, that is directly up to you and your perception. Mm-hmm. But when you have faith and there is definitely power and knowledge, and when you understand the fundamental truths, when you know that you are not weak, that you are not insufficient, that you're not supposed to be a victim, that there's plenty of things that you can do in order to make yourself powerful and have a titanium immune system and be a victor. When you have that kind of attitude and that kind of mindset and you live in those kind of emotions, well, that breeds a different kind of expression of health and life inside of your body.
Yeah.
And so even on the spiritual side of that, you become more vibrantly alive.
Right.
And every life creature has got a vibratory frequency to it. This is science. You got a vibratory frequency. The more alive you are, the greater your vibratory frequency. And the greater your vibratory frequency, the better your body's going to be at expressing health and well-being, the less chance that something like a germ has of making you sick. And to your point, like people talk about, I want to make something clear. You don't catch a cold. You don't catch the coronavirus. You invite it in with by becoming a susceptible host, by weakening your immune system, by having unhealthy cells in your body. You've invited it in. The process started long before you ever experienced your first symptom and allowing your immune system to become weak. So it's not something that just happened by catching a cold one day. It doesn't work that way. Your body's been weakened over a period of time, and then you get exposed to the germ and you're the susceptible host, which is what you never want to be. And then let me just talk about this. So we talked a little bit about mind and spirit, but the body too. When I talked about being disciplined, I talked about being disciplined to the laws and principles that govern health, and they all play a gigantic role in your state of health and whether you're the susceptible host or not.
Right.
So exercise plays a huge role. The food you eat plays a gigantic role. You've got to be eating clean, healthy food. And most people, when you go to the grocery stores, it's filled with toilet paper, which none of us get, toilet paper, and junk food. Those are anti-nutrients that are literally making your immune system compromised.
Watch this. I know exactly how to solve people hoarding toilet paper. Put it in the produce section. You put it with all the right? They won't find it.
Right.
Because that's what's happening. And that's not passing judgment. That's what we're seeing.
And we're not, I mean, humor's a good thing at this time. So don't think we're making light of the situation. But at the end of the day, something's just, I can't make sense out of it, and the only way to deal with it is just, making humor out of it. But so we're eating well, we're exercising, and certainly removing the toxic loads, we're managing the stress in our lives. And you know what? You have to understand the effect of a chiropractic adjustment. So I had a young student who's now started in our office, and he was so frustrated at lunch because there was a post of another world-class wrestler. This guy was at that level, who posted that their chiropractor said something about, if you don't want to catch the coronavirus, then you should go get adjusted. And I'm sure it didn't go down like that. The conversation probably didn't happen like that, but he probably meant more like, if you want to be less susceptible to the coronavirus and to have a strong immune system, then get adjusted.
Right.
Because when you get adjusted, we're influencing the nervous system, not just in that moment, but even at a greater level, but certainly in that moment. And the nervous system governs and controls all function, health, and healing in the body, bar none. I know that when somebody gets adjusted, in the moment of that adjustment, there's an influence on blood pressure and lung capacity and tidal volume and every other function in the body where we are influencing the nervous system, and especially on the immune response. You can't think that the immune system is autonomous in the body and it's the only system in the body that's not governed and controlled through the nervous system. We know for a scientific fact, when we do an adjustment every single time, especially an upper cervical adjustment, there is an effect and an influence on the nervous system that cannot be denied. And just because lots of people out there, even healthcare professionals on the other side of the equation, don't understand that that's how the body works, that it's governed through the nervous system, and that there is this real impact on the immune response, doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. And it exists all the time, every single time we do those adjustments. This is not the time to be avoiding your adjustment. This is the time to be getting your adjustment and following all these principles so that you don't become a susceptible host. And we have a moral and ethical obligation to lead people down this road to do all the right things so that they don't become another victim.
And that's why, maybe a lot of people don't realize this, that's why chiropractic is considered an essential service. Right, so that's why, because the government knows, the authorities know, the governing bodies know that this is how you fight something like this. You're going to create amazing health, like you said. So absolutely, more than ever before, people should be getting adjusted, exercising, eating healthy, right, building a strong body so that we can fight this thing together. And so watch what happens if we start doing that. Of course, take care of those people who are critically ill. That's the purpose of crisis care. That's the purpose of the medical model, right? But at the same time, we've got to address this. Because what will happen is this. If we don't address this won't be the last virus. There'll be more, right? And that's a whole different topic. When this crisis passes, we're going to forget about it. And what do? We'll find ourselves in the same situation, if not worse, if we don't start making changes now. We've got to change our attitude right now.
Right. Yeah. All right. So let's wrap this one up, and
sure.
I'll have just a couple parting comments. If you have anything to say, you can too. But I mean, at the end of the day, the statistics of the flu, the statistics of cancer, heart disease, diabetes, all those things, the statistics of what's going to be the coronavirus, and following that along the way, it's going to be radically different in our office than you'll see outside the office.
Oh, for sure.
And that's
There's no
because we've got people that are taking the right action steps, and they're lining up. They realize that they are powerful. They realize that they're loved. They realize that they need to be self-disciplined and obedient to the laws and principles that God gave us, just like 2 Timothy 1:7.
Amen. That's it.
All right, man.
Right.